Good morning, Wave Rover morning report. It's the 8th day at sea, and last night we had fairly light winds. They were probably in the area of 5 to 10 knots, so we were only making about 3 knots, but we were continually going to windward, meaning that we're sailing as close to the wind as we possibly can, about 45 degrees off the wind, which also means that we're sailing into the sea. So the swell is a function of the direction of the wind usually, and we're sailing into that, which makes for a slightly rougher passage. Now I want to show you the chart, and you can see what we're trying to do here. So the yellow line represents where we have been. The red triangle is Wave Rover. The little red ball on a stick is just an arbitrary point that I've picked. It's about 50 miles north of that little group of islands. They're called the Madeira group, and that little red dot is where I want to alter course and head more south, because, let's see if I can hang on here, we're heading to that little spot there. The motion inside the boat is such that you really have to hang on with one hand. And where the red line is terminating, that's Morocco. And we're about 350 miles off the coast of Morocco right now, but it's still cold outside. Now, I want to show you what it looks like when I look through my doghouse here. So we'll start on the starboard beam. Now we'll go to the forward starboard port. And now the port, starboard port. That's probably a little bright. And now the port beam. And then looking aft on the starboard side. Looking aft on the port side. Now inside the doghouse, this is where I conduct most of my night watches, or most of my watches during the day as well. I can look up, and it only takes me seconds to look around. I don't have to get into wet weather gear. And I mean, amazingly, even this close to Africa, it's still relatively cold outside, especially that we're going to windward, and you're likely to get hit by a little bit of spray, and at the same time, the wind is blowing on you. So it's so much more pleasant to stay inside and look around through the doghouse. But that doesn't mean you don't go outside at all. You do go outside. You want to check the ropes. You want to check the forward sail. You want to check all the little bits of rigging, make sure nothing has fallen off. Not that it has. But for the most part, I can stay warm when I'm on watch, which is a great blessing. So then, if I have to go outside, the few times I have to go outside to change the wind vane or the sails, I do it, but I'm not out there all the time. So let's just quickly go outside and take a look at what the weather looks like from outside. After 2 days without any contacts at all, now I have a ship coming up on the starboard quarter. I've been out on deck and I can't see it, but I know it's there because I'll show you. The AIS tells me that there's a ship in between the first and second rings. The outer ring is 15 nautical miles and the inner ring is 7.5 miles. The little black triangle in the center of the ring, that's Wave Rover. And the little circle with the line coming out of it that just turned black, that's the ship. Now when it turns black like that, it means that it's going to have a CPA within the limit that I've set. A CPA is the closest point of approach, and the limit I think I've set is 1 nautical mile. So now let's see if we can find out some information on this ship. Okay, the name of the ship is the Ethan Top. It's currently 10 nautical miles, 10.5 nautical miles, bearing 234 true from me, and the CPA is 3.3. Well, it's shifting, but you can see it's over 3 nautical miles, and the time to the CPA is 47 minutes, and the ship is doing 16 knots. I mean, that's a lot of information I'm getting from this VHF radio. Now, if I want to call that ship and let them know I'm here, all I have to do is hit the call button. And then I select a channel, say channel 6, and then I hit the yes key and I wait for him to, it'll set off an alarm on his bridge, and then he'll respond to me. Well, I'm not going to call him because there's no need to. They're 3 nautical miles is quite a distance. But that's how the AIS works. And the nice thing about the AIS, it works whether it's daytime, nighttime, cloudy, it's raining. It's not affected by any of that. It's dependent on the antenna of the 2 ships. So the VHF antenna on these big ships, they have to transmit continuously their AIS information. Any ship over 100 tons has to transmit it. For me, it's an option. It's an expensive option to transmit, but I have taken the responsibility to get a receiver so that I can receive all those AIS signals. So how much time has passed since we had the initial alert of a ship on the horizon? Well, I don't know exactly in minutes, but in that time, I've actually had a shave and a complete wash. And now let's check to see how close it is. Okay, so we will go Ethan Top info. So it is bearing 3.6 nautical miles, and it's going to get as close as 3 nautical miles. That's what CPA means, closest point of approach. It's bearing 187 true, and it's doing a speed of 16. So this is saying that we will have our time, TCPA stands for time to closest point of approach, and that's in about 6 to 8 minutes. The reason it keeps changing from 6 to 8 is it's dependent on the course of both ships, and both the ship and myself will be moved slightly by the swells in the sea, so that's why the computer is making those changes. All right, let's go up on deck and see if we can spot this ship, the Ethan Top. So you can see how even at a little over 3 miles, it's not that easy to see the ship. When we go down between two swells and they're down, they disappear entirely. But when we're both riding on top of swells, we can see them very clearly. So that's what 3.5 miles looks like. It's not very big. So AIS is doing a good job alerting me to that ship at 15 miles out. So what's on the menu today? Well, it looks like it's fish stew. So we have about half a pot of boiling water. There's a cup of rice in there. There's a chopped up onion. There's 3 cloves of garlic chopped up, 2 eggs, and later on I'll be adding a can of sardines and some spices. And I just want to show you how the stove, it's a Dometic. Right now we have it on very low. And you can see how it's gimbaled. And it's right across the North Atlantic, no problems. Generally cooking, no problems. I just had that one failure just before the island of San Miguel, where it went flying off. But what happened was there was a 90-degree wind shift almost instantly, and you know, it's really hard to anticipate anything like that. So yeah, fiddles would have saved the day, but 99% of the time, even in rough weather like this, going to windward with all kinds of movement, the pot is fairly stable. Just let that cook for another 10 minutes, and then we can add the rest. And there it is, the completed product. What do I call it, you ask? Well, it's Wave Rover Spicy Egg Drop Fish Stew. It's a nice simple name. Well, the sun is just getting ready to set. It's marking the end of day 8 at sea, and it's been a really good day. You know, we got to do quite a few things today, from showing you how we cook on Wave Rover, showing you AIS and the contact we had. And so we haven't had any contact for days with other vessels, and today we had that contact a couple hours ago. And now, as sun is beginning to set, there's yet another contact. This one's at about 6 miles, and I'll take you outside right away and we can take a look at it. It's a little harder to see, and I'll point the camera at it, and hopefully the camera can pick it up, and we'll also get a little weather report before shutting down for the evening. Here we go. So join us again next week as Wave Rover continues on her voyage to the Canaries. She also has to deal with multiple contacts in what is a fairly busy stretch of ocean.